These are the strongest builds in D4 Season 12. But not only that, we're also covering some of my top picks for most fun builds in the game. Because while a build can be insanely strong, that typically also means it's boring as shit. Now, a lot of these builds are going to be the same old rehashed information from the previous season, but there are at least a few new ones making it into this list. So without further ado, let's get into it and start off with why you're probably here. The Paladin. Now, in the previous season, Judgment was the shit. Everyone was playing it, and it was topping all of the leaderboards. This was due to two reasons. First being, well, it was busted as fuck. But also, because this build right here, the Shield of Retribution build, was massively bugged and not dealing damage as intended. Both of these factors are now fixed though. Judgment had its rectum turned inside out, and the Shield of Retribution Thorn's damage got hotfixed. Alright, so how does this build work and what makes it so great? Well, it has a few core mechanics. Firstly, we have Blessed Shield, using the Shield of Retribution enhancement. This turns the skill into a Juggernaut skill, which in turn allows it to utilize a few lovely damage bonuses, but it also pulsates Thorn's damage 6 times per throw. This allows the skill to gain a completely new layer of scaling. And if you're familiar with D4 scaling, every new layer is multiplicative with each other. So what we do is we grab all the scalars of a regular Blessed Shield build, and then we grab every bit of Thorns we can find, and we blow up the game. Simple as that. Now, what's truly great about this build, though, is that you can play it from level 1 all the way into pit 130 or so. It essentially one-shots anything while leveling, allowing you to blast through the Torment tiers easily, and then it just keeps scaling. So regardless if you want to play this build in the endgame or not, I'd at least recommend it to get you into T4 quickly. Alright, and for the fun build, we have my absolute favorite build in the entire game, the Zenith build. This is an ultimate skill build, where you whip out your big dick sword and slash the entire screen with your two-hander. The absolute top-tier choice if you want to cosplay as the Coom Slayer this season. This, in combination with the Retribution build, will be my two main builds this season. And while I grabbed this as the fun option, it was also at the top of the leaderboards last league, although much less played than Judgment. Alright, so how does this magnificent thing work then? Well, I have a full proper build guide for this one from last season, but as you may know, Zenith is an ultimate skill. This means that its scaling is automatically disgusting, while also scaling via attack speed, making it even stronger. The only problem being it has a long-ass cooldown. Or is it a problem, really? Nah, we're just going to grab the Sermon of Steel upgrade and it's spammable. Because each hit extends the duration of Zenith, and if you're attack speed scaling, you will be able to get in a lot of hits. This is probably the most important part of the build though. You want a lot of attack speed before swapping to this build. But in case you get distracted by a paragaming video or whatnot on the second monitor and Zenith goes on a cooldown, no worries, you use the Resplendence glyph and a slick pair of flicker steps to reset the cooldown back down to 0 with an evade, and you go again. Simple as that. For the next and the second best class in the game, we have Fatty McFatty, aka Wood Chopping Man. And for the best build, there's no surprise here, it's the Pulverizer for like the gazillionth season in a row. So again, nothing new to see here, but in case you've missed my videos the last couple of seasons, here you have the Pulverize build. You can play it from level 1 all the way to the pit 120s or so. And how does it work then? Firstly, the build relies entirely around the Puddle Maker, aka the Rotting Lightbringer. Using this, we're busting out a green, gooey slime puddle every time we pulverize, and standing within it, we overpower. Then all there is to do is scale your overpower damage, and you're basically done. Simple, huh? Yeah, that's Pulverize for you. And for the next build, we have the fun Druid build, my favorite Druid build of all time, and what you can find in my pantaloonies when playing it. A big-ass boulder, that is. So, what is this build all about? Firstly, this is an endgame build. I wouldn't recommend starting it early, but rather pick it up in the end game. And when you do, you have one of the best speed farming and infernal horde builds in the game. Because we're going to make the boulders spin around us, clearing everything around us without any effort at all. And the reasons it's an endgame build are twofold. Firstly, it costs a shit ton of resources, which you'll need tempers to solve, but it's also entirely reliant on the Dolmen Stone unique, because this is what makes the boulders spin and deal most of your damage. But once you've solved these two factors, it's smooth sailing from then on. You should be able to farm pit 90s or so, all T4 content, hordes, and uber bosses using this build. And it's completely brain dead, so you should feel right at home. Next, we have the emo fuckboy, and here we have a build that you can play pretty much from the start, all the way to the highest of pits, and it's the golem build. And the rest of the minions? We're throwing them in the trash to buff our 3 golems instead. But first, how do we manage to summon 3 golems? It's due to the Grave Bloom. Using this, we now get 3 golems. In particular, we're going to grab 3 blood golems, and why is that? Well, shit, because its active ability is busted, and how we're dealing our damage. We're going to set up our build so we can spam the golem active ability as much as possible. We're going to stack enemies up, keep resetting its active cooldown, and just spam big chunks of damage over and over again. A minion build that's largely brain dead, but also fun because you actually get to press buttons. Can recommend. For the next Necro build, we have the Shadow Blight build. It's quite tight between these two builds, and hell, even the Poop Wave build is extremely similar in terms of power. But this is looking to be the second strongest build yet again. Alright, and how does the Shadow Blight build work then? Well, via shadow damage. Here you're going to spam shadow damage with your shadow skills, and then you have Shadow Blight dealing more shadow damage that you scale with more shadow damage. Basically, you put anything with the shadow tag onto your bars and spam your shadow skills. Then all you need to do is scale your shadow damage to get as much shadow damage as possible from your Shadow Blight. Simple, huh? Yeah? Enjoy. Alright, and next up, we have the Shit Eater, aka the Barb. This class got some substantial nerfs this season, simply due to the fact we can't sanctify anymore, and this class relied quite heavily on sanctifying Selig for extra maximum fury. But either way, the class is still looking fine, and it's still the same 2 top, and also most fun builds this season. The first one being the strongest one, the Lunging Strike build. And how does this build work? Easy. It basically relies around one item, Hooves of the Mountain God. Using these, our Lunging Strike now cleaves. And that's all we need for the build to start popping off. And for damage stacking, we can use Ramaladni's Magnum Opus, now working via 2-handers as well. This means that we can get all the insane 2-handed bonuses while also benefiting from maximum fury stacking. Now there are a lot of uniques and interactions making this build as good as it can possibly be, but if you're just getting started, focus on grabbing the sneakers and you'll be up and running. And eventually, you'll be looking at pit 120 or so. Because honestly, this build has no downsides. It's fast with permanent teleports, it's the strongest pushing build, and it's overall just fun as fuck. It's pretty much the best build at everything. Next up, we have a fan favorite Hotte, and this is not only my favorite Barb build in the game in terms of fun, but since Season 11, it's also incredibly strong. And again, this is largely due to Ramaladni's. Now we can use this, smash with our 2-handed mace, and deal proper damage. And with all the interactions of stacking fury, along with some buffs to Hotte itself throughout the season, the build is just fantastic. It does take a bit more to get it online than Lunging Strike, as that skill generates fury and berserking for us, but once that is solved, you can just hold down the Hotte button and smash. Next up, we have a class that's looking to be at a similar power level as the Barb, largely due to one build, the Payback Monkey. This was my favorite Soyborn build during Season 6, and since last season, it's finally at the top of the leaderboards where it belongs, and this is largely due to maximum resource stacking, because the Spiritborn has this lovely unique called Rod of Kepaleke. It spends your resource and increases your damage while doing so, and by scaling enough resources, all skills that can use this weapon is suddenly pretty damn strong. But Payback does this better than the other skills, because Payback in itself also drains all resources to increase its damage. And combine that with the fact that Rod of Kepaleke also turns your core skills into basic skills, and we can use adaptability aspect on top of that. So just by stacking a bit of max vigor, we're getting a 100x multiplier or some ridiculous shit like that. That's pretty bonkers. Oh, and by the way, we're also able to overpower constantly by grabbing the Pock and Zan rune combo, so we're getting that too from spending a bunch of resources. Combine that with the buffs to Harambe skills from previous seasons, a reworked ultimate, a new pair of gloves granting you 11 gorilla skill ranks, and some additional buffs, and you have yourself one of the best builds in the game. And honestly, I can't recommend this build enough. It's fun, fast, and satisfying to play. So if you haven't already, then try it out. And if you don't want to play this, then Evade is definitely the most fun one, and likely also the second to third best Soyborn build. Because while you can indeed play Evade on a Paladin now, the Soyborn is the OG Evader. It's also the build you want in your armory if you're playing any other Spiritborn build, as this is the ultimate speed farmer. You're simply evading around, and you have your main spirit hall, the Eagle, shooting out aimbotting feathers for you. But in case you played this build before, nothing has changed apart from getting slightly less power from the seasonal powers. But either way, if I was playing Spiritborn this season, I'd play Payback for pushing and Evade for farming. Alright, and on to my favorite class, we have the Sorcerer. Fortunately, or unfortunately depending on how you want to look at it, by far the best build is still the Crackling Energy build by Zaramos. So in case you watched my videos last season, this will just be rehashed information. But in case you didn't, you definitely have to play this build at least once before it gets gutted, because holy shit is it fun. Now this build in particular has some interesting mechanics, because Crackling Energy is absolute ass. So somehow, we need to make it good. How is that done? Easy. We're slapping on the Essadora's overflowing cameo, quite possibly the most build-defining unique in the entire game. It transforms Crackling Energy from ass to an actual build. For every rank in equipped shock skills, it gains multiplicative damage. And that, my friends, is why you're seeing this odd assortment of skills on the skill bar. Because by doing this, and scaling our shock skill ranks, we're able to get somewhere in the ballpark of 150 skill ranks or something, getting a humongous damage bonus from Essadora's. And when it comes to actually spawning the Crackling Energies, that's what makes the build fun, because it plays similar to that of a ball lightning build. We're simply spamming as many of them as we possibly can, each spawning Crackling Energies, along with gaining some additional crack from other sources. What's fun about this build, though, is speedrunning, because due to the charged flash aspect, you're able to cosplay as a vacuum cleaner. Pretty fun. This is also why the Source is getting but one build this season. Crackling Energy is simply the strongest, the fastest, and the most fun, and all other Sorcerer builds are complete ass in comparison. Simple as that. And finally, the shittiest class in the game, the Rogue. Nothing has really changed from last season here either. Hopefully, there will be changes to the class next season because, holy shit, has it been rough being a Rogue main the last couple of seasons. And while the Rogue indeed is currently one tier above the Sorcerer, I'm putting it dead last anyways because the top build has the most obnoxious playstyle out of any build, probably ever. And that's due to the best weapon out there is the Orphan Maker paired with Heartseeker. It grants you a 4x multiplier, on top of granting a 100% damage increase from your additional reload skills. This does come with a pretty substantial downside though. reloading a skill puts it on a cooldown, meaning your Heartseeker is no longer spammable and less fun to play. Okay, so what do we do in the meantime? That's up to you, really. Take a break, grab a snack, rub one out, or I guess you could use your other skills to boost your next Heartseeker. Okay, but Mr. Big Penis Man, I'd rather sit on my own ballsack than play a build like this. Yeah, I feel you, so drop the weapon then, grab a regular legendary and slap on an aspect on it, and you've got yourself a fantastic farmer and still one of the best rogue builds out there. Heartseeker is overall just great this season, so treat yourself to some fun. For our next build, we have an actual fan favorite, the Death Trapper. This is a build that's been a top build for a long-ass time at this point. Not only for pit pushing, but it's also one of the fastest speed farmers in the game. It does require you to hit quite a few breakpoints, but once you've got that sorted, you can play the build as a one-button build. And that's due to the Scoundrel's Leathers. Using this, your trap skills are now core skills. This in turn allows you to utilize the Beastfall boots to drain your energy, which, when paired with preparation, removes the cooldown of your death trap if all the requirements and breakpoints are met, and of course at the same time, it's also resetting the cooldown of your dash, so you can zip-zappity zoom through content faster than any other build. Be aware though, you need to read a guide before playing this build, because if you don't meet the requirements, then the build is absolute ass. And while I do understand most of my viewers can't read, I'm sure you can find a video tutorial out there. And with that, we're finally done with this shit. A few new builds, a lot of the same. That's D4 in a nutshell. You'll find all the build guides in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.